Welcome back to Stage Zero. Welcome back to episode 4. We are hoping that we can get above 500, as we say in sports, for having an episode not be cut off by weird Cloudflare issues or server issues. Chris, to unjinx us, I have worn a different shirt for this episode.
I
So
can see that. You don't have your space shirt on. What happened?
I don't. I decided to go with the wind lines or the cloud bands of Neptune for this one.
Oh, I
So
thought it was the rings of Saturn just like widened.
if there are actually
Okay,
blue
so
rings of Saturn, we should talk about that.
yeah, but not today.
Not
Today
today.
we will address that little black thing that you can see on your screen, which is right next to the OLM because we're looking at the live cam at the moment.
Mhm.
And yeah, right next to that big old OLM that we know, something just appeared. It's that little black thing that you see above that tent, and that's a ship transport stand. And pretty much there's only one reason why there would be a ship transport stand without a ship being there. That can only mean this is going to be the new test bed. Can we
Yep,
bring that
we
on screen?
are. Yep, I've got the picture here from Jordan. If we can fire that back up there. I know we can see on the live cam too, but I've got a closer up photo from a few days ago. And there it is.
Perfect.
Yeah, so we're essentially looking at test static fire stand, or at least that's kind of the speculation that's going around right now. And it is sitting there on pad one as the engineers are, I'm sure, fervently discussing how they're going to get this thing to work. Which, Chris, I will once again defer to your technical expertise a little bit more on this too. But we both kind of knew that they weren't going to just not static fire ships until
Yeah.
Masseys was finished. So they have to have something to do it with, and the launch mount plus this, I guess, right now is their best option.
Yes, it might be the only option. Who knows? The thing is that last time we thought that it was more likely that they will fix Masseys and they will use the original fire stand, just refurbish that, because this is one thing that you can see in the picture that we have on screen right now. That thing is really just a transport stand. It's not by far as sturdy as the static fire stand, the crab stand that is still standing at Massey's all scorched.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the only option here would be to bring that thing up on the OLM, weld it down, and then do the fire and hope that everything just works fine this time. We don't see a big old firecracker on the OLM. That's like the last thing we want to do and that we want to see. But there are still a few things that they need to do in order to get that, because with the ring, we have like the first thing that we need, which is a steady and stable base to put the ship on, to lock it down on, because in the static fire, obviously, we have the tendency of the ship to go up in the air, and the ring is what has to keep it down. And this ring, just to make it perfectly clear, is not made for that. It's made to keep it standing, to like not have it fall over, but not
Mhm.
to like lock it down and resist it from flying away. So of course they're not using the full throttle in the static fire, but still these engines, once you fire them, have quite an urge to lift the ship, so to say. And so I don't know if we see them still like getting it more sturdy, like putting more parts in to get it more rigid, or maybe they already know that this is enough. We don't know. They got pretty smart people there, so I think they have a good idea of how much that thing can stand.
Yeah, and just a reminder to those who are watching the stream, whether you're new or you've been here before for the rest of the episodes, hit the like and subscribe buttons if you get a second, because the like button helps put our content more in the algorithm's favor for you. So you'll see it more after you do that. And then we always love you to have you subscribe as well. That helps the content as well. But yeah, the 24/7 cam, which we were showing you at the beginning of the stream, that will be back on the air after this episode is over. So if you want to see more of our content as far as live footage, that's where you can go as well. But yeah, like you said, Chris, right? I mean, the ship transport stand is essentially just to get the ships from, either the production site to Masseys or vice versa, or to the pad. It is a taxi, a big steel ring-shaped taxi, and it's not even the one doing the driving. That's the modular transport. But they are going to have to make some serious adjustments, like you said, to keep the ship in place while they're firing the engines. Like you said, even though they're not at full throttle, ship 37 or whichever ship will be up there will be in a hurry to leave if it can. It will try its best if it can to leave the pad, and they're going to need to make sure that the whatever they rig up will be able to hold it down. And also, when they're done and ready to launch again from Pad 1, they'll need to make sure the ship transport stand can come off the orbital launch mount. It'll have to get it ready for launch again. So,
Obviously,
yeah.
obviously. And then on the other hand, yeah, they will weld it down. But when you're looking at basically shipping, for example, they also just weld down stands on ships just for like a single transport. So welding something onto a metal surface and then removing it later on is not such a big deal as we would imagine it. The one thing that really needs a lot of modification and that needs to be somehow adapted is the quick disconnect, because that's the other problem we're having. Of course, the tower does have a ship quick disconnect, but it's way up there. It's supposed to be on the top of the booster when it's connecting. So we'll have to see if they actually modify the ship quick disconnect that's on the tower, which would be kind of dumb because they want to use it for the start really soon. So they will likely create a test jig that is only for now. And it doesn't, of course, have to be as sophisticated as the quick disconnect, because it just does not have to quickly disconnect. Yeah, it's connected very manually, and it can be disconnected very manually and very slowly. So we did see one of the templates that you need for the connection of the ship at the build site earlier in the week, but we don't know if it had anything to do with this. And then we also don't know if maybe the actual adapter plate that is at Masseys that got scorched might also be able to be used, but we'll see. They will definitely have to tool some extra equipment for this, and yeah, they're likely already at it.
Yep. And as you can see here, I've zoomed into a different shot from Jordan on the transport ring. It's got some pretty good detail here. You can see some of the clamps or apparatus here at the top from where the actually up here on the right or left, you can see where they are welding something new on. So likely as we speak, more adjustments are being made to this, probably in ways they never anticipated to use it. I don't think anyone, a month ago would have even considered using the ship transport stand as basically a rough adapter for the launch mount to do static fire tests from. But whatever the instructions from above were, they've clearly come down the chain and it's being, worked on site. I don't know how long this is going to take to get this ready to actually do a static fire. Surely there will be a lot of proofing tests, before they actually put the next rocket on, because, after ship 36, I'm sure the nerves are a little bit frayed as far as we don't want to lose another ship to an anomaly like that. So time, like we said, I think last episode, take your time, but hurry up. And I'll be interested to see what more modifications they make for this.
Yeah, and also we will see that this ring basically will never be reconverted. This is, after all, for Block 2, and we are on the verge of the end of Block 2. We will get to the next generation. So likely this transport stand will only ever be used now for these last two tests that we are looking at, likely,
Mhm.
and then its job is over. So they can freely work on it, and yeah, we won't be seeing it coming back at least a Block 2 transport stand. It can of course be recycled then again later. They're pretty good at like reshaping metal there. The necessity
Yeah.
just dictates it. But yeah, this one now will be a test ring. And last week, I wouldn't have guessed that. I wouldn't have thought that they would actually go as far as using the original OLM for it. But thinking about it and now already seeing this for a few days also gets me to the point where we are now always talking about Pad 2 being for the next generation of booster and the next generation of ship. Maybe we see the swan song of the old OLM. Maybe we only see these two tests and the two flights that come after it, and that
Mhm.
could be it for the original OLM.
It would seem to make sense that the like Pad 1 and the original OLM would have, potentially ship 37 and 38 on their respective flights, and that would be it. Because after that, we know Block 3 is right there, and Pad 2 is more optimized and built exactly for Block 3 and beyond. So like you said, there's probably not going to be a use for Pad 1 as far as launches after those two. Maybe there is, we don't know. And someone actually in the chat just said they were mentioning the static fires. Is Massey's going to be obsolete if this works? I would say the answer to that is definitely not, because this is basically a patch together solution to just keep things going. When Massey's is repaired, um, I'm sure there will be more tests conducted there, just like usual. I know the Block 3 booster stand is there. They've got, they're working on stuff for the Block 3 boosters and the ships. So I don't think that's going to stop. I think this is just to get them to the end of Block 2. And then once Block 3 testing starts, hopefully Masseys will be ready by then. And then we can use the hardware that's already there. And I don't even think that was damaged that much in the explosion. We showed some pictures of that before. But the Block 3 stuff will still continue on at Masseys, from what I understand. And Chris, I think you agree, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that too.
Yeah, and the other thing is that is really interesting, just by seeing what we're seeing now, is we never really thought about that the test campaign for Block 2 is coming to an end. So basically,
Mhm.
the test stand, the fire stand, would have been reconfigured, modified for Block 3 after just two more static fires. They had almost got through with it. It
It
just
almost was there. Yeah.
ceased a bit early. Yeah, it was almost there. So yeah, we will see Masseys now being built up for the next steps. And I'm really curious if they take this as yeah, as an option, basically, for example, to go ahead and plan the new math side of the farm for two firing stands, because that's the other thing that we talked about, that in the future it's very likely that we will need two little flame trenches for two little
Mhm.
static fire operations there. And so if they have to work on the tank farm, they might as well just already prepare it for a second trench.
Yeah. And it would make sense to, in a way, it's kind of, I don't think I would say this is a forcing function to get the test site ready for Block 3, but now since they do have to make these extensive repairs, maybe like you said, they're already looking ahead to getting those things done now that they were going to get done to begin with. And we do have some pictures here of what looks like some wreckage from the the remains of Ship 36. Jordan took these the other day, and they've been stowing these in a. I don't know if this thing was damaged in the fire. I think it was, but uh, one last salute to Ship 36 there. Looking pretty worse for the wear. I don't think that's going to be flying again anytime soon. And the fewer starships we see that end up in this state, actually, I think that's just test equipment. You have it looks like a band from one of the tank sections,
That
but
looks a bit like a pirate's chest, the thing up
yeah,
on the left.
who knows what's in there? If there was any loot in there, it's probably burnt to a crisp right at this point. But
Yeah.
yeah, so it's been I forget the exact date that the Masseys explosion happened. I think it's been 3 or 4 weeks now. And we had anticipated we were kind of throwing around 6 to 8 weeks total for the repair. So we could be coming up on the halfway point of that timeline. I still think it takes a little bit longer. Um, so do you think we're kind of ahead of schedule there, Chris, or what do you think about that?
It is so hard to say. The thing is that I'm totally convinced that by the time they're putting the ring on the OLM and have the disc, not the quick disconnect or quick connect, the connector for the gases there as well for the propellants, then it will go really fast. Because remember, we were at the point where we were getting ready for flight 10. The ship by now, the next one, 37, really had time for final installment of all the necessary equipment. I guess they do have enough engines and it should already be there and waiting. So I think once things start moving, they will go really, really fast. So I have
Yeah.
no idea. But I think we're talking weeks, not months here. This is going to be fast.
I think so too. It actually, just to be goofy for a second, you asked me why I was wearing this shirt today with these colors. I was trying to match Booster 18.1. I wanted to match the torture crown on it, as you can see with the blue. So this has still been a viewer of all the carnage at Masseys. So not sure when testing on this will resume. Obviously, the first Block 3 test article that we have out there. So they had it set up for crushing tests and other tests. And as far as I know, nothing was damaged during the explosion. Of course, I wasn't there. But
Yeah,
hopefully testing on this can resume soon and we can see some kind of action out there.
the thing is, first of all, it is quite far away from the trench. I mean, Masseys always look so tiny, but then on the other hand, starships are really huge. So
Mhm.
the Masseys area in itself is not just a small parking lot. It's actually quite big, and this is on the opposite side of Masseys. So we've only seen a big gas explosion. There was like
Mhm.
not a raging fire that came all the way there. There's not much flammable material around it. And after all, we got a steel rig with a steel can in it. Yeah, just
Yeah.
like a little fire blowing by is not really going to hurt it. And you can see it like everywhere. There's not even scorch marks on the tank. And then
Mm.
when it comes to continuing tests on this article, we don't know when and if they already continued with it, because this is something where you don't necessarily see frost lines or anything for the test. You might see some people rigging it up, but I think that they will also get out of there once they do the tests, because obviously and luckily SpaceX has taken security very serious there, which was the reason nobody got hurt in the big explosion. And so I
Yeah.
think it's the same for the testing. So we don't know. Maybe they did more tests than we ever anticipated already. But having this on screen with the big crown and everything, you see the massive hydraulic cylinders here that can pull down. Also, you see some that can even like twist it slightly. You can really exert a lot of force on this article here. And I'm really curious if they will at some point test it to destruction. So just really go to the limit of this article, or if it can be something that we might be seeing used again, because if this already really has the bottom structure of a block 3 booster, that
Mhm.
would mean that it could also be used, for example, for fit testing the new OLM at pad 2.
Yeah, for sure. And I saw someone in the comments says, OB 18.1, the poor traumatized guy. I have to wonder in the chat if we can get some kind of a vote here. Who has seen more things? Hopper at the base with all the ships exploding over the last 4 years, or has Booster 18.1 seen enough in the last month to equal that? So if you think that Hopper has seen more, you can put H. And if you think Booster 18.1 has seen more, you can put B. But I'm curious who is more traumatized, which test article has seen more bad stuff. But anyways, not to be too silly here. We've already got one H, so Hopper is in the lead there. Um, I wanted to
Yep.
throw, yeah, I don't think it's even a question. I think Hopper has definitely seen more things.
Yep.
Ship 11 just disappearing into the fog and then exploding and then having the debris rain down was probably the worst thing it saw. And then we actually have a poll. Thank you back there in the back there, Jonathan. So we don't have to just type letters into the chat like that. I'm gonna put up
Yeah,
a
but it's yeah, everybody is completely certain about that it's Hoppy. I think so too. So much more would have to be happening there. But then really the test tank got like the medieval treatment. You know, it's in the torture chamber
it's
and it's seeing some colleague being torn apart in the worst possible way, and it's still waiting for its own treatment. So
and then
eerie thoughts there. Not a good
and
position
the
to be in.
and then the prison that it was staying in got basically bombed and no one could let it out. So the guards that had the
Yeah.
keys are not there anymore. But they're coming back and they're going to let it out soon enough. I had a couple of shots here of just the pad. This is from a few weeks ago here with Jordan's shots. Every time we look at pad two, it just seems like it's closer and closer and closer and closer to being done. I am still really excited, obviously, to see stuff actually happening there. Launches, obviously, of course, but even just the first initial things they'll do as far as just proofing it, even just putting, a booster on there for whatever. Even when they raise and lower the chopsticks, it's fun to watch because you can tell that like that's where everything else is going to happen. And I think we should just start calling Pad 1 at this point OLM or Static Fire Testing Stand 1 because that might be all it ever does again from this point, but who knows?
There's still two launches, but it's the interim test stand,
It's the interim
the
test stand. Yeah.
ITS.
So ITS 1. So we can call it Pad 1 or ITS 1 depending on what your preference is. Um, the cladding on these towers is starting to get pretty interesting. I know Pad Two's tower has cladding. I think last time I checked, it is actually higher than Pad One. We'll have more updated pictures soon, but here, as you can see it in the last photos a couple weeks ago, the cladding on these, it was only up to I think the third section or the third little part there. Yeah, let's
Yeah,
check out the
right.
live cam actually. So if we can look at the live cam, we can see the padding, or I'm sorry, the cladding on Tower Two. And Chris, what do you think of that compared to Tower One?
Yeah, I think that it's up to the same height as on Tower 1, but on Tower 1 there were pieces missing. Here it's completely closed to the side. And I was just thinking about if they were to add more cladding, but if they
Mhm.
would do that, they would also put the tower in danger, because that would mean you have so much more wind load on it And we are
Yeah.
directly at the coast. We know that wind and bad weather is something that it can always come in. I mean, we are at the Gulf Coast. There could be strong winds to be expected sooner or later. So I think they can't even put too much cladding on, or they would risk toppling the towers, or at least like breaking them maybe, or getting some sort of problems with the wind load there.
And like I've always said, I've been down there a few times. The salt content in the wind is extremely high. So it is an interesting combination of not just the force of the wind, but just it's abrasive wind. Like it's kind of like being in front of a sandblaster. So the wear and tear on pad one, as we've shown before, I'll throw up a picture here in a second. If we can go back to that, that'd be 1 minute here. The coloring of just the launch table itself has just basically been blasted to rust. Like it looks just completely rusted over. Whereas pad two, here's a good image of it. And this was taken a few days ago by Jordan. You already see them preparing what it looks like to get something built to put up the ship transport stand. But yeah, I mean, the thing is constantly exposed to just the elements, of which there are many out there at the coast. And if you've ever been down there, you've even just being out there for a day, especially in the summer, you know that it's not just a typical clean, clear day at the beach. It's a battle against the elements.
With the thing that they're installing there right now, I mean, this will be the connection point. It's higher up than the actual rim of the OLM. I think they will put it on as snug as possible, because that would mean that most of the gases go by all the machinery that's in there. That's stage zero. So I think what we're seeing here will be the connection point.
Gotcha. If you So as far as what else needs to be done with the ship transport stand to theoretically make this work, obviously we've mentioned the clamps that will be needed to hold the rocket down. What else do they need to do just to ensure not only that the rocket doesn't obviously fly up and leave the tower, but just to keep the area around it safe? We don't want any damage to, even if there's only two launches left, we don't want any damage to pad one. And I'm sure SpaceX obviously does not as well. But like, what is left
As
to
long
ensure that everything is good?
as long as everything is aligned, and they can make sure of that before they hit the fire button. But if everything is aligned, the force goes straight down through the ring. It has the same diameter as the booster, so it really has a very clean path for its flames to go down. And down there, obviously, is the upside down shower head. We do have the deluge system, so we are
I've
safe
always
when it
loved how we
comes
call it
to
that.
the upside down shower head.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
And you must also remember that the entire OLM is able to take the force of 33 Raptors at full throttle, and we are going to have only the ship's six. I mean, we're still in the area where era where we only have six engines on the ship, so that's not really a problem. The entire thing is literally made to take that kind of force. So I think that's actually okay.
Yeah. And I know we're seeing comments too, and obviously online everywhere, that people just don't want pad one to blow up. And while
Yeah,
pad one is incredibly robust, like I said, any damage to it at all. That's why they have the cladding. That's why they've taken measures to prevent these things from happening. Um, but yeah, obviously no damage to that would be great. Now we do have the results from the poll earlier. What test article has seen more trauma? Hoppy has won by a score of 77% to 22%, which ironically only equals 99%. So we're just going to assume that there's a vote that didn't get counted in there or something. But there were 76 votes. So Hoppy has won
yeah,
that poll. So I don't think there was ever any question. But
absolutely.
thank you for participating in the inaugural Stage Zero poll. We'll probably have one of these. We could have one of these every week if y'all like that. So I wanted to throw up a picture of Ship 37 from a little bit ago, back at the 1st of June, when it was at um, Masseys, back before the explosion. There's a bunch of stuff to pick apart here, Chris, and I wanted to get your take on a lot of it. First of all, we have Ship 37, which we joked in our news episode that it looked like it had just wandered out of the Mega Bay after a long night on the town in Port Isabel and forgot to put all of its clothes on. So here it is, wearing just a smattering of tiles. And we've got some other stuff going on here. So give me your take on what you see from Ship 37, kind of, and what you're expecting from it here whenever they do start static firing again. And also, I think this is the Block 3 booster stand here. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I think that is.
No, the booster stand will be um, the scaffolding that is on the right now?
Yes,
This
I
is
meant to zoom in on
where
that.
that
I
is.
had the mouse pointed somewhere else.
Okay, okay, that's what I mean. The one where you got the mouse right now. This is going to be where uh, the block 3 boosters with their dual quick disconnect set up, which you can already
Mhm.
see where they go. There's these 2 new scaffolds, and you can see that they got the slot in the middle to take the quick disconnect, which is now on the left side. The one on the left side becomes redundant then, and we can see the angle that we can also see mirrored on pad 2 already for the 2 quick disconnects. So I'm really curious to see that. I really would like to know how they're doing it. I mean, pretty likely it's one connect for each type of the gases, but we don't know. We really absolutely don't know how they play that, how they do that. And I'm really curious to see the adapter plates and how many lines they're running through with each quick disconnect.
Yep. And
Okay,
then,
so
yeah, sorry,
yeah.
go ahead.
Now back to 37. I mean, we saw that it is pretty naked here. Yeah, we see that they have the white lining in under there. They have the black lining. All the stuff that we are seeing here right now. Yeah, now you already got up there, but down there were no tiles on them. You can see it here. You see the typical shape of the tiles, and when you go further down, you see that it's only the black lining and then some tiles as rows. So it really
Yep.
looks like they started the process and then for whatever reason stopped. So that could be a change of material. It could be even waiting for the results of pool 36. Yeah, because that thing was completely outfitted with tiles and likely they had new tiles on there. I mean, we know that they had new tiles on there. So the decision of what tiles to put here might have had to do with the results of flight 10. So this
Mhm.
could be the reason why we've seen such a ill-dressed ship out for testing.
And just to give people some more sense here of what's going on, there's 3 layers here. Um, there are and different areas of the ship seem to vary a little bit. But you have the white felt, and then you have like the black. It's not, I don't think the black is felt. There's like a black sheet that goes on to, there's 2 ablative layers, it looks like. And then you have the tiles on top of that. And we saw in ship 36 when it got reeled out or wheeled out that it was very uniform looking. And you could see like the tucked in white layer of felt kind of sticking, but it was flush between the tiles. And that acts as like, filler between the tiles so they don't have to go in and like individually, inject fluid or whatever into those gaps. So, um, as ship 37, it was like, it looks almost like they're trying 8 different things here, but you can see the continuity with the different layers. And there's a bunch of green on these. I think those were just checkouts on different tiles. I actually kind of like the aesthetic of the green. I wish they would do that more often. But we've talked about the heat tiles a lot, and it is something that is of continuous debate in the community. Because clearly, if you're trying to land these things and then retake them off 45 minutes later to whatever, you can't be replacing 10,000 heat tiles if, they all fell off. So it feels like what they've kind of worked up here, they've got a substantial ablative layer, and then they're going to continue working on just the individual ceramics. Now, Elon has made it clear these are not the final iterations of the ceramics. We've had discussions about metallic tiles, we've had the self-cooled tiles. I mean, in 3 years, when they have the answer, we'll probably look back and say, "Oh yeah, that was obvious." But this has never been solved before, so it's one of those problems with SpaceX that it's like, "Oh, another problem on the list," and it's also one that's never been fixed. So it makes it for a pretty interesting observation to look at all these different layers.
I mean, we know that what they're using right now, which is ablative tiling, which is conventional material, is something that will not work if they want their vehicle to work as intended. So we will see a different material, we will see a different solution, but I'm pretty sure that SpaceX has like a drawer full of ideas, and some of them are doable, some of them look like magic, and likely in the end it will be something that they would consider magic now. Yeah, but they just have to
Yeah.
wrap their head around it and do it, because that is the other thing. This is such an incredibly expensive test campaign that we're doing here. I mean, literally, we are only in the testing of Starship. It never did anything productive. It is only a test article at this point. And they do have the money to go into materials, to do some extensive and expensive testing. And I'm sure that at some university, there's already people that are working on stuff that we don't even think about it yet. I mean, we've seen the concept of the metallic tile, for example. It also had like little bulbs where sensors could be in, or maybe that is even for active cooling. But we will have to wait and see. That is the really, really interesting part of it. And I must say, I would be overly happy if they actually go for metallic and we do have shiny starships, because I really must say I like that shiny look on it. And if they end up with metallic tiles, that would be awesome.
I think we've shown a render of that in one of our news episodes made by Vooper, our awesome and one of our awesome animators, and it looks really cool. Um, who knows? I've kind of been there are times where I'll daydream about it and I'll think like, will they have like will at that point will they have like an alternately powered Oh, Booper's watching. Yes, that was him. We'll have to pop that up here in another episode pretty soon. Or I can try and find it here in a second. But maybe someday we'll have the heat force field. And because you don't ever see the Millennium Falcon with ceramic tiling on it in Star Wars. So if the Millennium Falcon is the goal, maybe there's a way we can have some kind of force field. I'm being stupid, but I think that would be a funny way for it to go. I'm all for anything shiny, and more shiny on Starship is good. And someone says we need a way of keeping track of 1,000 starships. I agree, but they need to be 1,000 of the final version of Starship. Ships 1 through 36 do not count. I'm
Yeah,
trying to
no, but
remember.
I also
Yeah.
think like the ones up to 100 will all be prototypes still. I mean, at one point we will see them getting satellites up there, and that will be rather soon. But I'm still thinking that even when we see the first Starlings deployed by Starship, it will still be in the experimental phase. We are far away from the absolute completed version of it. But I think that we will soon get to the point where we were in the early Falcon program, that they're not on like a weekly cadence yet, but they are steady and they're working on it because they got it done for one single purpose. And that's another thing that we always talked about. Starship will not be a one-trick pony. It will not just have a different fairing like other rockets on top. We will see different ships up there. The booster
Mhm.
is a damn capable vehicle, and we've seen it perform brilliantly. We've seen it being caught on the tower. It's amazing what it can do. And you can imagine that you could put very different ships for very different tasks up there, starting with, at the moment we only have that slit where the past dispenser is there. You can see the slit wonderfully here, the door. Yeah.
Mhm.
This payload door that we're seeing on screen at the moment is just made for the V2 mini Starlink satellites, for flat white satellites. If you go for commercial loads from different space agencies or private investors that want to get something into space, we need a different type of fairing. Maybe we need some concept like the Hungry Hippo, which is like two fairing halves separating, letting out the satellites, and then closing again. But um, however, they will need different types of openings of either a fairing, but then the fairing would again be a problem with the heat tiling, because you can see the heat tiling here still goes around more than half. So it could also be an option that we get a shuttle style payload door where you have like the barn door on top of it that opens to two sides. We'll see. There's so much stuff that we still have not even thought about yet.
So many options. And I was trying to, we talked about this in a news episode recently. Falcon 9, Block 5 of Falcon 9 was the one where they actually corrected that one's COPV incident that caused that Amos 6 mission to explode. And that was back in 2018. And I'm pretty sure Elon even said in a quote there that Falcon 5, sorry, Falcon 9 Block 5 would be the last block. There have been rumors at the time of what about Block 6, and he's like, I don't think we're going to go to Block 6. I think we're just going to stay with Block 5, and this will be it. And it has been it. So I'm curious what the Block 5 moment for Starship will be like. Will it be like Block 7? Who knows? But if we're going to start keeping track of the 1,000 functional starships to get to Mars, it'll probably be somewhere down the road after they hit their Block 5 moment. But this is a good still from the animation by Vooper. As you can see, very shiny, much shine. Um, I think obviously, like you said, you're going to have not just one version of Starship. You're going to have the cargo tankers. You're going to have the the HLS versions, hopefully, that still go to the moon and have different parts built into them. So I think, like I said, people tend to forget that Starship is still just a prototype. It's experimental right now. They are still in the fleshing everything out phase and have been for a while. And it's kind of it probably feels like a lull now with testing just because there's been more anomalies than usual in a row. So, but we're still
I,
going to hopefully see something like this in the future. So it'll be great.
I think there's one other thing that is quite remarkable, and most people don't even ever get that. And that is we are seeing a company that is trying to build a fully reusable concept here, which means that they want to reuse both stages and they're going for it from day one. They could have also gone a different path. Just say we go for the reusable boosters for now and then make expandable starships, because that would mean you need no tiles at all. You don't need the aerodynamic surfaces. You have a lot more space to put payload in. And this is just really a miracle. I don't think that it has ever been like attempted before to start into a rocket program where you are from day one considering all the other factors. They could already bring up satellites by now. We've seen the reliability of the booster, and I think that just making a standard Starship that only goes up basically and has not the complicated mechanisms for the flaps and the extra fuel tanks, the header tanks, and everything, then we could have seen a productive Starship stack way sooner.
Yeah, and I think we've actually talked about that off camera before sometimes too. Like they could have been there. We had speculated that they could have had. I mean, they essentially have the booster pretty much good for now. I mean, it has almost it probably could have been caught 4 times by now, but they opted to not do it that during that one flight. I think it was flights 3 or 4, but I know they've caught it 3 times since then. But we have you and I have often speculated if they could have at least gotten a few Starlinks deployed, by this point if they had done a few things different. But if they weren't worried about reusing the entire stack, like do you just iterate Starship to the point where okay, now we've got payload deployed, ready to go. We're still going to work on the rapid reusability and the landing both stages, but for now, let's just use it to flank up as much Starlinks as we can. I think you remember us talking about that before. Like you were saying, kind of still like essentially a Falcon 9 level reusability Starship. But I think once all these testing things get ironed out, once Masseys gets repaired and we get to Block 3, I'm really curious, like if Block 3 is going to end up being like, okay, now we've got it fixed, or if it's going to have issues of its own that we haven't seen. I don't think any of us thought Block 2 would be like this after seeing how well Block 1
No,
did. So I'm curious if Block 3 has other demons in the closet that are waiting for us, or if it's going to be great, or if it'll, be ready and have a lot of this stuff already ironed out.
yeah, just to like say that one thing again, the last mishap that
Oop, we might have lost Cris there. We'll see if we can recover him. All right. There, I think we have him back. Cris, are you there? If we can get a Cris in the chat, maybe we can bring him back. We need everybody to say Cris in the chat and we can hopefully recover his live stream here. I think we might have had a connection issue there. Cliffhanger, yes. Now Booper is saying Cris. I'm not sure if we're going to get him back. Hopefully we can. I'll give him another few seconds here while I go through some of our other pictures. But yeah, curious what the chat thinks of the ship testing or ship test stand being basically um, retrofitted, not retrofitted, but being basically outfitted as the adapter for static fires at the pad. Give me your thoughts on that because I know everyone seems to be a little bad. Will be more at risk than it needs to be of potentially another Ship 36 incident where everything blows up. So, give me your thoughts in the chat about that. We'll see what the opinions are there. Definitely want to know what you guys think. Can you imagine driving along the freeway and seeing the shipyard? It won't be difficult to see. This will be quite a sight for sure. Busy work ahead. The the idea of driving by someplace like Starbase or even Roberts Road in the future is cool enough, even just with a few ships there. but with multiple ships and multiple towers. Driving by a spaceport is going to be a really cool thing. I think about that quite a bit, and I'm glad that I'm not alone because I sometimes feel pretty nerdy when I think about that. Let's see here. Okay, we've only had one person say Chris in the chat so far, and that was Vooper. So the vibes are not good right now for bringing Chris back. So we need to pick that up if we're gonna get him back in the chat. I think we can get him back if we can. Maybe he just needs to restart his router. Who knows? But yeah, like I said, ship transport stand probably the object of most attention right now at Starbase. They are currently working on getting it set up for the uh, potential static fire campaign of ships 37, 38 on the orbital launch mount on Pad 1. Definitely something that we haven't seen before. 2 weeks ago, speculation was that it wouldn't happen. It was too difficult or it was too improbable. Not something that we were ever used to seeing or even considering at that point. So, but here we are. Techs are out there live at work. We have a live cam shot of this. It's a little bit more further away, but we do have, like I said, pictures from the other day of much closer image. Intertime, you can go to the live shot if you want to. I'll let you know if I'm going to throw up another picture. But yeah, who knows if we are, weeks or even still a month or two away from this new campaign getting started. They're going to have to do something that they haven't ever done before. But in a sense, they have because they have had to make adjustments on the fly quite a bit. And I think we do have more Chris's in the chat. Levon says Chris. T. Brookie says Chris, call Chris. Schism says come back, Chris. And I think we have him back. I'm seeing him on my side. I'm not sure if you're seeing him on your side. Let me see if we can pull him back from deep space. Chris is actually speaking us from the same resting place that Ship 36 is. Ironically enough, he is smiling at me on our back end camera here. Let's see if we can get him on camera here. Let me see if we can get his mic unmuted. Apparently, they do not have unmuted buttons in Ship 36's domain here. Let me tell him to unmute.
I think it might work now.
There he is. We have recovered Chris. We have
Hey,
recovered Chris. And Chris, you need to get back or he's going to blow up Ship 37. So you might have just saved Flight 10 by making it back to us here.
yeah.
So glad you were able to make it back there. How is Ship 36? Did you see it in your journey off camera there a second ago?
I hectically tried to come back to you guys, and that's about what I did. So where have you been?
Well, we've been asking about the ship transport stand again. We've got the live camera back up showing the work on pad 1, but 5x5, I don't know what that's about. Anyways, pad 1 looking old after the new pad design. It really is. And I was telling Chris this the other day, the even equipment on Starbase that's not that old, relatively speaking, it looks old quick compared to the new stuff they build. Chris, what do you think the next thing that we'll see in Starbase that looks old, that is not old but will look old sooner? What do you think the
I,
next thing is that we'll be like, it looks old, it's not really old?
I think the first time we've seen fire put onto Pad 2, we will start to see the new OLMs to look old. We will start to see a paint that's going away, and yeah.
Yeah.
We saw it on the OLM, on the original one, before the first test. We were like, "Whoa, that's all shiny and brilliant!" And we saw the first start. We literally saw it just blast off the paint. So we all learned that if you really need to get a lot of paint off something really huge, use a Starship booster.
Yeah. And I think that won't be long. I mean, whenever the first test campaigns on Pad 2 start, we'll already start to reminisce about the Pad 1 days. So I don't think that's far away at all. We were going to mention, like I said, Ship 37. Oh, 5x5 means your mic is working. Okay. I think we're good. There was some video lag there a second ago on
Okay.
Chris's side, but I think we're good. The camera froze, but we should be fine now. Let's see what else we have. We have about 15 minutes left. If you're new to the stream, or even if you're not new, if you're a recurring viewer for episode 4 of Stage Zero, hit the like and subscribe button. Like helps get the content put in front of your eyes more, which is good for everyone involved. And subscribe, well, that just kind of means you're part of the crew. So hit those two buttons if you like the content. If we're doing a good job keeping you informed on the image you see in front of you, which is Pad 1 and the ship transport stand and all the shenanigans going on up there, We're glad to have you here for 4 weeks in a row. And so far, I mean, I don't think we have had catastrophic server issues this week. I think we've had a few things, but it's been much
Yeah,
better. What do you think,
it
Chris?
transferred over to me. Yeah. The server side is brilliant. We can see Jonathan in the back office, like having the day of his life because we don't have that thing collapsing on us. Yeah, I don't. I should not jinx it.
He says,
That's
"Don't."
good.
His hair is actually on fire right now. If only y'all could see what we are seeing right now. The man's hair is literally on fire, but he is holding it down back there, doing a good job.
No, anyhow, but yeah, it's all good. And from now on, everything will work fine. We do have a backup plan in place, so we don't need it. And I think this is just a good solution to do it this way. Um, as we see pad two in the background, we can see the big scaffolding, like the housing where all the tech is in there. I remember when that scaffolding first came up, it looked huge. And now, before when you had the overhead picture for pad two, we could already see that once they had put this ginormous lounge table on there, yeah, it already started looking small again. It's, it's
Mhm.
it's just so hard to get a grasp for the sizes these guys are working with. I mean, when you look at this picture and you really start to see people in there, then you at least get like a little glimpse how big this starting table is on its own. What a massive structure that is.
Yep. And
Yeah,
if you
but
zoom in
but
here, you can see these people. Yeah, like you said, the launch table is absolutely humongous. And like you said, it's understated how big all this stuff is.
yeah, yeah, and so I think they also just really learned from pad one what they needed to do with pad two. And I think that we will still see a retrofit. It's not like the days of Pad 1 or the original OLM are completely over. I think at some point, this tower will also see a trench.
Yeah, I wonder how long it'll take. I think it's taken quite a while for this one. And then we're also seeing this at 39A in Florida being done too. But yeah, a trench for pad one, double flame trench here would be good. If they can ever, I've always thought this was funny about the footprint at Starbase. This little inlet of land that they can't touch basically cuts the launch site in two. If they were ever able to acquire the permissions to just link these two together, and they could build a third tower right there, I don't know if I'd hold my breath for that, given how strict that is down there. But I've always kind of wondered if we're going to eventually see a third tower come up.
Yeah,
Maybe not while these two are still standing, but like kind of in the middle of the site somewhere.
this was always completely eluding me how they could have gotten such a shape. I mean, it's kind of mind blowing that on the one hand, they know that the company they've just given this land to will build a spaceport basically. They will
Mhm.
build rockets there and everything. And then on the other hand, say, hey, we can't even like give you a squared up piece of property. Yeah, here's like a little how I don't know how many corners it has, and be happy
It's
with it.
quite a few.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's something that just blows my mind. I would really like to know the significance of this puddle there, of this pool that we're seeing, and the reason why they could not add this to the lot.
I know the area down there it's a preserve. There's some protected species down there. Oop, I zoomed in too far. But yeah, it's always struck me as odd that there's that one little strip that they can't touch there, but everything else apparently it's all fine.
Yeah,
But yeah, if you were to pick the most unorthodox shape of land to build a spaceport on, this is probably pretty close to what would come to mind. Just the most irregular looking plot of land ever. But again, if you ever doubt the ingenuity of the engineers at SpaceX, they're making it work with this tiny footprint of land. That's the crazy thing. And Roberts Road actually gets me excited because they have far more space. And then Pad 39A has far more space. So I'm excited to see what they'll do for more space. This is eventually going to be, I mean, we've already said that Starbase is kind of the R&D site, while 39A and 37C will be like the hubs for Starship in the future. But really just incredible how they've managed to do so much with so little space down there.
yeah, very true.
Let me see if we have any new comments here. I think we said someone said hello from Slovakia. Hello. Thank you for
Hello.
joining us. John or Jonathan with his magic controller, he rocks. He does, and his hair is actually not on fire anymore. He's managed to put that out, so we're good. We're relieved to see the flames gone from the live feed here behind the scenes. Much more efficient with two pads in production. even with one doing static fires. Yeah, I agree. They need to redo V2. All V2 is down is disaster. Yes, V2 has been a little bit surprising in how many issues they've encountered.
Yeah.
I think we were spoiled kind of with Block 1 and Ship 31 just hanging on for dear life throughout the entire flight and then still sticking the landing. One of the coolest things I've seen with regards to Starship testing over the years. Starbase cannot build ship fast enough to justify a second static fire trench at Masseys. I don't know. What do you think about that, Chris? And there's already, like you said, one static fire trench at Masseys, and we have about 8 minutes left, so we can touch on this here if you want to before we head out.
What was the question? I didn't get it, and
The
I
question,
can't
yeah,
really
I
read.
may have read it too fast there. Sorry. Let me find it again. They cannot build a second static fire trench fast enough at Masseys to justify it before the end of Block Two's testing. So Starbase cannot
No,
build ships
okay.
fast enough.
Then I was completely misunderstood there because what I was saying is that we see the end of Block 2 right now, and we will see the remainder of the Block 2 static fire testing campaign on the provisionary stand, which is going to be on the original OLM. And so
Mhm.
what I was saying is that while they are refurbishing everything and preparing everything for Block 3, they might opt for at least making the tank farm already compatible or already workable with two trenches, and maybe already even start with the second trench, because when you look at Masseys from the top, it would be possible to fit another one there. I don't know if there's anything else technically speaking against it, but in principle, they could have two trenches there, because remember, these trenches are tiny compared to what we're having here at the launch.
Mhm. Yeah, they're like miniature trenches because they're only intended to really, I mean, at least the one, um, pretty sure the one where Ship 36 was. I mean, um, when you have 33 engines firing at the launch pad, it's different than the
Yeah.
six firing at Masseys. So they're
And
not
nine,
full blown,
that's
yeah. And
that's
nine,
the other
yeah.
thing. We see the step up. So that's another reason why they would likely have to have refurbished everything anyway with the shift to Block 3, because they likely did not anticipate that they will go to the 9 engine configuration in Block 3 when they originally started constructing the test area at Masseys.
Yep. That is
Where did you
true. And
find
I
this?
this was actually taken yesterday by Jordan, and I was curious for your thoughts on this as we close out here. I think it was at the launch site.
At the launch site? Uh, that is kind of hard because it looks like it was cut rather hastily. So
I
either it
might have had
might
the
be
location wrong. Let me see if I got that wrong. Because if it was at Massey's, I'm going to feel silly now for showing you that. But yeah, initial thoughts on what that is?
not really. It looks like some sort of decking. It looks like the right side, the side that we're not seeing, might be a flat surface. And we can see that it has been cut up with a blowtorch. So it could be anything, literally.
Well, it was not from Massey's. I was just double checking the files here. Let me see if it was from the launch site, maybe from the production site. Yep, that is at the launch site. So um, maybe that's your belated birthday present from SpaceX. They're going to give you that. They're going to ship it to Germany, and they'll let you make a new desk out of it since you have a new desk now, apparently. So that's your new. That's going to be. They're going to retrofit this into sound tiles for your wall for your new office. So that's probably what the plan is.
Yep, just get it coming. The thing about it, when you look at it, look at the structural steel that they put underneath that plate. That thing, whatever it was made to withstand a lot of force from above.
Mhm. Yep. And who knows, maybe there's retrofitting of the Pad 1 tower going on right now just to keep it ready for a potential static fire campaign as we get closer to that. So I'll have to double check as to where this is on the launch site. But yeah, interesting shot there. We're
Yeah, I
going to do
mean,
one
this
more.
could
Yeah.
actually this could be really the reason. It could be some part of cladding that they've taken off Tower One for getting the pipes through, for example. It's
Mhm.
very, very possible. They might as well just lay it to the side and even reinstall it later on, because as I said before, it's really not hard to disconnect and reconnect metal.
Nope. And especially with how many people SpaceX has out there and what they've done before, no time at all can they have that back up there. I'm
Yeah.
going to put this last shot of Ship 37 back up just to that can be our last one here as we close out. By the way, thank you everyone for joining. I know we still got just a few minutes left. We're going to just talk about this a few minutes more. We appreciate you guys jumping in. Hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Just the like helps get the content in front of you, and subscribe means you're part of the crew. This has been Stage Zero, Episode 4, where we've talked about goofy looking starships with weird arrangements of tiles. We've talked about the ship transport stand. And Cris, I guess any final thoughts from you as far as what to expect here in the next few weeks, or do you think it'll be a quiet few months before we actually get the static fire test?
No, I think there will be the point at which they, in all seriousness, start working on Masseys. They
Mhm.
will really just investigate everything that they need to. Then they will make proper planning. But once they start there, we will see the same thing as we've seen with Pad 2. There will be just never ending activity. There will be 24/7 construction, and they will be very fast with it. And I think that there will be the moment when testing has started on the provisionary stand, when we see flight 10 and 11 coming, that we see the pace picking up again. I mean, we were at the point where we were supposed to see the quickest pace between launches that we've ever seen before, and it just didn't work. And I think it's just natural now that once everything starts working again, it will already kick into a faster cadence.
Yep. I think we're right around the corner from big repairs happening, and before we know it, by the time the summer's over, we'll be looking back at this on in Christmas season and thinking of how fun that was to watch different stuff happening, and everything will probably be good by then. So before you know it, things will be back to normal. They'll be blasting engines, hopefully not ships into pieces, not engines into pieces, but just testing them. Um, and they'll just continue forward. SpaceX does not take time to roll around on the pity party while things blow up. They keep pushing forward, and we have pushed forward through 4 episodes now. So again, thank y'all for joining us for Stage Zero. Cris, it's been great. Jonathan, I'm sorry about your hair back there. Thank you for holding it down.
Thank you.
He's gonna have a word with me. I have not given him this much flack in any episode, but he is awesome back there behind the scenes. Thank you guys for joining us, and we will be back here at the same time next week, and we will see you then.
Okay, and now we will switch over to the 24/7 stream, which you can obviously watch 24/7.
Yep. Not 48/7, but 24/7. We will see you guys later.
And we will see you next week. Stage 0 out.